All right, we're back. This is CSIS 2200, the MIS course, part number 3. We left off with talking about the major categories of e-commerce. We talked about different business to consumer models, consumer to even business models. There's a lot of other kind of specialized ones that are out there that the book makes you aware of, because some of you might end up working in government. So there's government to non-business or e-commerce. So this would be a business to citizens, or G2C. And you see this with tax filings. You can find this with your CRA account. So I put up a link up here if you guys want. You can go in there and have a look at this. This is an example of a government to a consumer model. Government to business model. This would be sites that have to do with maybe a government issuing licenses to a company, or government regulations, or companies that need to abide by regulations. So here's another website. You guys could check that out. Government to government. That's kind of odd, isn't it? But there's a lot of different levels within governments. There's municipal, there's provincial, there's federal government, and even intergovernmental departments within other countries. You see this with disaster assistance. FEMA would be a good example, because FEMA is that large organization in the States, and they bring together a lot of different resources together, and that would be a site. It would be an example of a government to government. Government to employee. This would be governments and providing their rights, their collective agreements, some training, what have you. So there is another model. And again, these are all kind of niche models, business models pertaining to government and non-government e-commerce situations. But you don't see those a whole lot. I've never really even heard of people really talking to them as, a G to C model. But just to let you know that the government has their own a grouping of e-commerce categories out there. All right, so the non-business organizations, non-business meaning like it's not really for profit per se, organizations that are out there. And probably the best example would be educational post-secondary institutions. For example, in British Columbia, a lot of our universities are publicly supported, although students pay tuition, but there's still a big portion of the money that comes from the government. It's not the intention of Douglas College to actually make a profit to do that. These are nonprofit organizations. They rely on government assistance or donations to do that. Here's another one. A nonprofit would be like WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks is an organization, or Wikipedia. They put out really good content in a particular area, and they don't charge for it because they want to make it free to everybody. Another good one actually is under education is khanacademy.org. A lot of the domains that have .org would be considered a non-business organization, hence the name organization. So if you guys ever come across an .org top-level domain, that would be an example of a non-business organization when you're on the internet. So and the intent of those is not to make money or profit, but they still need money to run and operate. They still have staff, they still have costs and infrastructure, etc. So they rely a lot on donations. I actually donate every time I go on Wikipedia, and every year they send me a blurb. Would you like to donate? And I always donate $10 to Wikipedia because I use them quite a bit. So I feel it's something I want to support, and I do support other groups that are nonprofit. Political and social organizations, again, would be another example of those. So I guess anything that has an .org would be a definite giveaway that it is for not-for-profit. .com or .coms are commercial. They are for profit. So that's a very clear distinction in the e-commerce world between those two. Now, a smaller subset would be organizations or companies that have interbusiness within the company. They can have an e-commerce type of model. So with inside companies, they offer certain types of benefits to their employees, and they might set up some website that allows them to exchange goods and services among the employees. and sometimes as perks or benefits, they do this. So, for example, if you work for Electronic Arts, they provide a gaming platform, and they have an inter-business e-commerce platform that employees only can log into, and they can download their products at a reduced price or for free. I'm not sure exactly what they charge their employees for that stuff, but you can get the idea that when companies, they have a particular product that doesn't cost them a lot. Like I know Lululemon, I've got a friend who works for Lululemon, and they can get onto their site and they can purchase on their website the same products that they sell on their main website to their employees, but they get a discounted rate. Some companies just allow you to use the front end, and they give you employee code, like coupon codes or something like that. It's another way of doing it. All right. Now, the business to consumer is probably the largest internet commerce model out there. So that's where businesses sell to the consumer or to the customer. So there are 5 major activities that kind of occur for that process. Now, most of you have probably purchased lots of stuff online, so you'll recognize this. The first step, of course, is you have to inform or share the information through maybe a website to your customers. So you're going to go to the website, you're going to get there through, you're going to find it maybe through a Google search, or you're going to know of a particular site. You're going to look on their site, you're going to find something that you want. Now, when you find something you want, the next step in the major activities is to order the product. Once you've ordered the product, you've got to fill in some kind of form. They'll ask you to type in your name, your address, your credit card information, all that kind of stuff. And that will lead it to the next part, which is actually paying for the product itself. That's the next major activity that you have to perform in that e-commerce cycle. So you've got to go and you fill out your credit card, you type in your PIN, your expiry date, and or whatever method you're using. And there's lots of them now. You can use credit cards, PayPal. There's all sorts of Apple Pay. It seems like a lot of companies now are kind of trying to capture this market because there's money to be made in this area right here. All right, the next one is the fulfillment. Fulfillment means that logistic portion where you're going to deliver the product. You're going to either ship it, download it, stream it, whatever you've purchased, you're going to have to provide that to the customer. And that is the 4th in the 5 major, is to give them the customer the product. And then the final one is support them. So if there's a problem, if there's some technical issues, if they need to return it, if they want to give feedback, or frequently asked questions, or that star rating, all of those kind of things happen during the service and support. Now, you probably recognize those 5 major activities that are required to purchase in a business to consumer e-commerce model. All right, so that's a good one to know about because not so much as a customer, because we've all done this as a customer, I think, but from a business point of view, when you guys are working in a company, there's a good chance that your company is going to have some kind of e-commerce, either sell a service or a product. And you're going to have to understand carefully which part of this cycle are you in. Are you actually on the web page? Are you designing the web page? Are you designing the form? Are you in the finance department? Are you working with the transaction? Are you working with the logistics at the warehouse or the delivery driver or packaging? Are you the technical support, answering technical support questions? Where do you lie within inside of these 5 major activities, and who do you rely on? So that's why it's important to understand this, because you have to understand, if you're working with support, you have to understand what's being advertised, what the customer typed in their order, how did they pay, was there payment problems, was it fulfilled? Because those are all potential questions that could come up during the service and support. So that's why it's not just a matter of memorizing these and repeating them on a test, but it's to understand that when you guys are working in the industry, where do you fit within that chain, within the company, and how all those pieces, all those links have to work together to really make it work properly. So just to elaborate, I mean, I'm doing a lot of elaborating, but a business to business e-commerce, and having another second look at this, of course, we need to use technology. The intranet with businesses, which is our internal network within our own company. With large companies, there would be a lot of components that would work together to support a business-to-business e-commerce model. But you could also have an extranet. And as we've explained in a previous chapter, the extranet is to connect your company with your partner businesses. And that's really, we talked about extranet in the past, and that's really, and this is the next piece in the puzzle, is that other company is that you're working with, you're going to have that communication with them, and that's why these extranets are created, because these companies have these business-to-business e-commerce relationships. When you do communicate with them, you're probably going to be setting up a very secure private network, virtual private network, a VPN, to do that. When you talk to those other companies, you're probably going to send your invoices or your data to them, and you're going to do that in a form of an electronic data interchange, or IDE. Then you're going to pay them, as we've talked about a couple times in these video series, the electronic funds that need to be transferred. And there will be different ways to transfer funds. Maybe it'll be bank account to bank account, or other ways of transferring the funds to do that. All right, so the advantage would, of course, potentially reduce delivery time, because everything is more coordinated. So, it always amazes me that companies like Amazon can get a product to my house within a day and deliver it. And it's just amazing, the logistics that they've been able to overcome. And really is probably the most important reason why Amazon is becoming so successful, because they've got such a massive resource of products at a reasonable price, not the cheapest, but they can get the product to the customer, and they can do this in a reduced time and cost. Improves communication. I think we've talked about this one already. This is almost a repeat in the slide. Major models of the business-to-business e-commerce. All right, let's have a look at this one. E-procurement, electronic procurement, means to acquire or to gather what you need, is another topic or a term that you might hear, a procurement. It enables companies' employees to order and receive supplies that they need to run their business. Common one would be something like staples.ca. They have a warehouse. They have many warehouses around the North America, but you can just get onto their site and order it as well, and then they deliver it to your company. This is e-procurement. Also helps in a way to prevent a bit of internal fraud in a way, because there are recommended companies that are approved by your company to purchase from. And what that does is it helps reduce the potential for possible fraud. And what I mean by that is, if I'm in charge of buying products for my company, let's say I have to buy about, let's say 20 computers, I could go to my friend and say, hey, buddy, sell me those computers and give me a bit of a discount or kick me back some money to do that. So what it does is it helps prevent any of that sort of kickbacks from occurring in business. When you procure stuff, there's always opportunity for some kind of fraudulent behavior. So what companies can do is they can say, well, you can buy these products, but only from very specific companies. You can buy directly from the supplier because, they have a relationship maybe with that company. They have a business-to-business relationship where they're purchasing their hardware from them maybe, or something like that. So electronic procurement has helped reduce fraud, kickbacks, you might say. You might have heard that term. And usually when you're procuring from companies, you get a bit of a discount because you're always going back to them. They negotiate that. So sometimes you can eliminate the processing costs of purchasing. If you're going to different companies, there's a processing cost involved. All right, here's the next one. It's called third-party exchange marketplace. So a third party is someone who comes in to bring people together. So in this situation, online, you can have these marketplaces that can generate money by charging to find a buyer and a seller and put them together. And there's two different types of markets. Vertical market, meaning straight up and down, means it's very, very specific. It concentrates on a specific market. So I gave an example earlier called Manheim.com. This is a online auction house that brings together a buyer and a seller in an auction environment to sell a car. Very, very specific. So that's an example of a vertical market or third-party exchange marketplace where it's a company that has an online car auction site. And the reason they call it vertical is because it only sells vehicles. It doesn't sell refrigerators or anything else. It just sells automobiles or vehicles. Very, very vertical. Concentrates on a specific marketplace. But they bring together someone who has a car, wants to sell it, someone who wants to buy a car, and brings them together as a third party. Now, the horizontal market is exactly this. Horizontal means it's across the board. It doesn't matter what the product is. It could be a refrigerator. It could be a bicycle. It could be anything. So a common example of a horizontal market as a third party would be something like Facebook Market. They call it the marketplace because it's a horizontal market. It's across the board. You can sell virtually anything on that platform. So Facebook has gone into the business of third-party exchange marketplace by creating a horizontal market called the marketplace that concentrates on a specific function or business process and automates it for different industries. Well, horizontal marketplace is across the board. And it's not anything very specific. If it's specific, they refer to it as vertical. These third-party exchanges also offer suppliers, people that supply a direct channel to communicate to the buyer. So they also act as a liaison, I guess, to take someone who's got a bunch of supplies and communicate directly to buyers. So they facilitate that by creating a website that suppliers can get on and sell it directly to the buyers. Now, another example of this one right here is AliExpress. I mentioned this one before. AliExpress.com brings together lots of suppliers, and it creates a direct channel to communicate directly to the buyer or to the consumer. So AliExpress would be an example of that. So I'm going through all these examples, and you probably think you might be getting confused or wondering why go all through. The reason is you need to be able to look at a website on the internet and be able to reasonably determine, what type of business model is it, and what are the advantages and disadvantages. And that'll help you as a consumer, but it'll help your company when you're working in a company to better understand how to partner up and how to work for and how to better research when you're looking at something. A lot of times, like I've been involved at work where they've asked for us to go and look for a new software product. And I'll get online and I'll do a lot of research online with a lot of different websites and try to figure out what the best solution is. So I can go direct to a supplier, or I could go through a third-party exchange. The downside with third-party exchanges is they add a commission. So there's an extra cost to the processing. Usually it can, because there's a third party involved. Makes sense. They're not doing this for free. All right, let's have a look at the next one, trading partner agreements. So when you're online and you're working with other companies, you may have to set up a trading agreement with the company. So this is to automate the negotiating process. And it helps to smoothen out the processes by already agreeing upon. It enforces the contracts between partnering businesses or participating businesses. All right. So an example of that is enables customers fulfillment agreements to submit documents via the internet. Now, an example, probably the most common, or one of the best ones I could find out there, was Amazon's fulfillment by Amazon, or FBA agreement. Now, this one right here, if you guys go and take a look at this link, it's a fulfillment by Amazon, and this is a contractual agreement that you can set up with Amazon to sell or to sell your products on Amazon. And you got to go through, it's like a legal process to go through and join the fulfillment by Amazon to be able to sell your products. And you have to agree to all of these rules and conditions and regulations. And that's what they refer to as this fulfillment by Amazon, or FBA. So that's an example of a trading partner agreement. So if I had something to sell and I want to use Amazon as my e-commerce business platform to sell my product, I can go and set up a fulfillment agreement with Amazon to do that. All right, this class getting a little bit long, so I'm going to take out a few of the slides here, but I'm going to move on to the next one here called search engine optimization, or SEO. Is something that we've talked a little bit about in past chapters, but basically if you are in the marketing department or going to be going into sales of any sort, this will be a key area that you're going to want to study and probably take classes on. But search engine optimization is really taking the customer on the internet and trying to bring them to your website. So it's a method of improving the volume or quality of the traffic to your website, getting the right type of customer to your site. Not just any customer, because you don't want any customer. You want customers that are particularly interested in your product. So they use different techniques on doing this, and it's a very complicated process. In fact, there's a whole course dedicated to just search engine optimization. People go into this as a career. There are companies specializing in this and using all the different techniques. If you are interested, there's a reasonable kind of introduction guide to search engine optimization right here. This is the link. I'd encourage you to have a look at it if you're interested, because everybody should understand a little bit about search engine optimization. So it doesn't matter where you are in that 5 stage of the e-commerce, you should have at least an understanding about how the search engine brings customers to your company. Because if you don't get customers to your company is probably not doing too well, and therefore you're not going to be as busy, and of course that's counterproductive. There's another link I put in here. It's from LinkedIn Learning. This is an old link. LinkedIn Learning, they used to be called Lynda. It's an SEO training tutorial that I had in here. You might have to search it in LinkedIn Learning. And if you guys want, you guys have to come up with an additional 3 courses that you guys get to pick. So if you're in marketing, I'd highly recommend the SEO training tutorial to give you a better understanding about what it's involved in search engine optimization. And even if you're not in marketing, I think this is still very valuable for anybody working in an organization to know how they're attracting. Douglas College uses this. We use search engine optimization because we are competing, our institution, with other post-secondaries within Canada or British Columbia, and we want to attract students from around the world. So we pay money to search engine optimization companies to do just that, so we can bring more students to our institution. Now, in the past 5 to 10 years, social media has exploded, and it's really become the default for a lot of people for communication. So businesses understand that wherever there's people and that where people's attention, they're going to focus business around that. So social commerce has really emerged in the past 5 to 10 years, and social media is concentrated on insight and products that display in front of their specific communities of people that are similar to you. Usually people who are friends with people have similar interests. So if they know who your friends are, the data analytics can then push ads to your friends that they might be interested in. So if you're ever on Facebook or other social media, you'll probably notice that there's ads coming up onto your site that your friends might have been interested, or you might have posted a like to a friend. And once you post a like, that means that that company knows that you might be interested in that product, and they'll push that in front of you. So that's kind of how they do it. Is that a good thing? I kind of like it because I like to be advertised things that I like and I'm interested in. I don't like to be advertised things that I have no interest whatsoever in. Well, that pretty much finishes off Chapter 8 on e-commerce. I did miss a few slides, so I'd encourage you guys to go through the slides. Of course, always read the textbook because there's so much more, perspective that the book is going to give you. And also, the questions are based on the learning objectives from the book. These videos are really my take on it. So again, I really encourage you to do that. And this video has probably gone on long enough. So I'll cut it off here, and I will see you guys in Chapter 9.